Alrighty, everybody. Excuse me. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on, excuse me, what time of day that you're going to be viewing this. It's good to see, hopefully, all of you again sooner than later. Um, so, what I got for you guys for today to sort of begin what you're going to be doing for this next week is I'm going to read to you a little bit of a story that was written around this time period that we're discussing in Japan. Now, what you need to know about this period in Japan is that it was written during the Heian period, Heian. Yes, correct. Sorry, I was looking at my notes. And for Japan, this period in time is really known as the golden age of culture. There's arts, there's literature, there's architecture, Buddhism makes a comeback. And one of the big things that was done at this point in time is that the women of the nobility, so the women of like the higher ranking members of society, wrote a lot. Sometimes it would be novels, sometimes it would be short stories, poetries, diary entries, all used to sort of show off the importance of Heian culture, Heian society, and more importantly, represent and reflect the arts and the thoughts of the higher ups at the time. So, what I got for you guys, and this is in your class textbook that I'm reading from, so you won't be able to read it, but what I want you to do is, and feel free to play this video back and forth at all times if you choose to. But I have for you a section of a novel that was written around this time called The Tale of Genji by an author named Lady Murasaki Shikibu. And her contribution with this story is that it's one of the most reflective pieces in terms of not only just the nobility, but the culture and the arts of the time, because the story itself is written about a prince that's going around looking for love. Typical story as usual, but because this has been so reflective of the time, especially of the Heian period in Japan, it's been interpreted into movies, plays. I think there's an animated movie about it somewhere, but it's just been it's been one of Japan's most recognizable stories. It's kind of like Japan's version of what the United States would consider a classic Cinderella story. But instead, it's a prince looking for love, and there's no evil stepsisters or a fairy godmother that'll appear with a magic wand. Anyway, so what I want you guys to do is follow along with what I'm reading, and then you'll have to do a little bit of response with it, answering the question of what is your opinion of the nobility of Japan at this time? So we've talked about how the Romans and the Greeks had their own aristocracy, which meant that they had higher ups, they had more, I guess, more wealth, more land, more power. Same thing in Japan, or China, excuse me, we're in Japan now. Same thing in China. The emperor was the guy that had all of the land, and it was an entire family. So I want you to see what's your opinion of Japanese nobility at this point in time after listening to this story. So what is your opinion of the kings, the queens, the emperors, the empresses, princes, princesses, the court, so the noble system where it's an emperor or a landlord, and then there's people that are below him that help this person run their day-to-day operations. Alrighty, so again, this comes from your textbook, and follow along. If you would like to play this back so you can hear it multiple times, I encourage you to do so. Just a little bit of backstory about the plot of The Tale of Genji. Tale of Genji was written by Lady Murasaki Shikibu at the height of Japan's golden age. This 1,000-page novel traces the life and adventures, especially in love, of a noble known as the Shining Genji. Now puts quotes around it. Although Genji is the favorite son of the emperor, his mother is only a commoner, so Genji cannot inherit the throne, which is pretty self-explanatory. He's got half royal blood and then half commoner blood. It's not a good situation. Instead, it passes to his half-brother, Suzaku, and then to Genji's own son. So this passage that I'm going to be reading to you is Genji's son and half-brother Suzaku visiting Genji's mansion in hold on, hang on, I can't speak. Rokojo, which is a district in Heian. So, here we go. Here's the excerpt from the Tale of Genji. The emperor paid a state visit to Rokujo late in the 10th month. Since the colors were at their best and it promised to be a grand occasion, the Suzaku emperor accepted the invitation of his brother, the present emperor, to join him. It was a most extraordinary event. It was the talk of the whole court. The preparations, which occupied the full attention of everyone at Rokujo, were unprecedented in their complexity and in their attention to brilliant detail. So basically it means a lot of people spent a lot of time putting it together. Arriving late in the morning, the royal party went first to the equestrian grounds, so they went to the stables where all the horses are, where the inner guards were mustered for mounted review in the finery usually reserved for the Iris Festival. There were brocades spread along the galleries and arched bridges and awnings over the open places when, in early afternoon, the party moved to the southeast quarter. The royal Excuse me, I'm having trouble reading today. The royal comrades had been turned out with the Rokujo cormorants on the East Lake, where there was a handsome take of small fish. Genji hoped he was not being fussy and overzealous host, but he did not want a single moment of the royal progress to be dull. The autumn leaves were splendid, especially in Akunomo's southwest garden, so another friend of his garden. Walls had been taken down and gates open, and not so much as an autumn mist was permitted to obstruct the royal view. Genji showed his guests to seats on a higher level than his own. The emperor ordered this mark of inferiority dispensed with, and thought again with satisfaction it would be to honor Genji as his father. The lieutenants of the inner guards advanced from the east and knelt to the left and right of the stairs. I almost said stars. That's not good. Before the royal seats, one presenting to take from the pond and the other a brace of fowl taken to his royal falcons in the northern hills. Tono Shujo, can't read. Shujo, Tonochchujo. So this is a real person. Received the royal command to prepare and serve these delicacies. An equally interesting repast had been laid out for the princes and high courtiers. The court musicians took their places in late afternoon. The concert was quiet and unpretentious, and there were court pages to dance for the royal guests. It was, as always, the excursion to the Suzaku Palace, so many years before the people remembered. One of Tono Shujo's sons, a boy of 10 or so, danced Our Gracious Monarch, so they put that in quotes. That's a song or a play that they're trying to do. Most elegantly. The emperor took off a robe and laid it over his shoulders, and Tono Shujo himself descended into the garden for ritual thanks. The evening breeze had scattered leaves of various tints to make the ground a brocade as rich and delicate as the brocades along the galleries. Dancers were young boys from the best families, prettily dressed in coronets and the usual gray blues and roses, with crimsons and lavenders showing at their sleeves. They danced very briefly and withdrew under the autumn trees, and the guests regretted the approach of sunset. The formal concert, brief and unassuming, was followed by impromptu music in the halls above. Instruments having been brought from the palace collection, as it grew livelier, a koto was brought for each of the emperors and a third for Genji. So a koto, it's not a piece of clothing, it's a stringed instrument. People consider it a Japanese harp. It's usually got probably 2 or 3 strings and is plucked with something that almost looks like a giant ice scraper. I kid you not. Let's see if I can find you a picture for that when we get a chance. Lost my place. As it grew livelier, hang on. Yeah, so I already said that. It was cause for general rejoicing that the two houses should be close. And that is the end of that section. So if you would like to play it back and re-listen to that to try and get a feel for what's going on in the story. Feel free to do that a couple times. And then on your sheet of paper that should be presented to you with your work, I want you to answer the question, what is your take on the Japanese nobility at this time? So what is your opinion of the way that nobles lived in Japan at this point in time? Other than that, once you watch this video, leave a comment with your name below, and I will hope to hear from you guys sooner than later. Okay? Take care, everybody.